June of 2011 was when I finally, after 17 years, right, decided to do a search and go find my biological family. But what I thought would be the best way to go do the search was if I went with a group like as a tourist or something. So like the whole time I wouldn't be thinking about, oh my God, I'm going to go see my biological family, get all antsy, emotional, or like just get overwhelmed. So I decided to travel with Ethiopia Reads, and I did my search like as a side mission. And but while I was there, I was able to see Ethiopia, the culture, go to restaurants, meet people, and really see Ethiopia for what it was, instead of just thinking constantly of like, this is like, I don't know, like I wanted to see Ethiopia as like history. I don't want to see the history, I wanted to see the culture, I wanted to see the beauty of Ethiopia before I tackled my personal issues. So.
And part of this too, of course, this wasn't exactly a search as such, because you knew the biological family was there. This was a reunion, and it's a different kind of journey. It's a different kind of journey there. And we did travel through Ethiopia and saw, and this was my second trip there. I went in, as I said, in 2008, and then we returned in 2011. When my girls were adopted in '94, families didn't travel to Ethiopia. The children were brought to the United States. We met in New York City, and then flew back to Washington, D.C. at that point.
This is one of the libraries that Ethiopia Reads helped build. While I was there, I was able to visit the libraries. The children read to me. It was really cool, like just being hands-on and getting involved, and really just seeing these kids be so passionate about reading, something that we take for granted here. And it was just an amazing experience for me.
This is the outside of the Iwasa Reading Center, for example, which is one of our big projects, and here's Aselefech reading.
It was so cute. Like these two girls were just reading to me, and it was really adorable, and I really had a good time. And it was just, I felt like I was hearing myself reading when I was learning the language, because they had their accents, and it was just, it just felt right, you know. And these girls had they were really passionate about learning and about being in the library. So. And
if you notice, I don't know if any of you can tell, the girl that's reading the book with Aselefech, she's reading The Runaway Bunny. So some of you might be familiar with that as well. But the issue of returning to Shashamene after 16 years in terms of the reunion, this was...
I was in, was that Hop2? Yeah, that was Hop2. I was we're in a coffee shop, and I was like, okay, can you give me a couple of phrases so when I meet my biological family, I can say a couple of things. So he's teaching me Amharic right there.
And also you wrote a letter.
Yeah, I wrote a letter, and then he translated for me.
So we could leave the letter in English and in Amharic as well. So we traveled to Shashamene. And this is one of the amazing photos of Aselefech's mother.
I don't know, this picture always invokes so many emotions. I never thought that this would happen. Like, I never thought that I would really meet my biological mother. Like, it was just a dream, you know? And when I hugged her, it just felt right. And I just don't know, every time I look at this picture, it's just unreal for me, because growing up, I didn't even know she still existed. I was told, you know, that my mother had died or whatever. I just didn't have information that validated that she was still alive. So, I don't know, this picture just always makes me cry, so.
We didn't know that if she was dead or alive.
Yeah, we just didn't know, because, right. I don't know.
Right.
And that's when I met her. So, and that's my sister Mimi on the left.
The flower.
And then that's my brother's wife, and then that's my older sister. So I think this picture is very powerful too, because it just shows, you know, like for me, it's just, I don't know, it's just, you see so many emotions. Like I remember just sitting there and we all just crying. Like we didn't speak the same language, but we all knew why we were crying. It was happiness, it was sadness, it was just amazing.
It was absolutely amazing. It was a lot of sharing of information and through translators. So there were storytelling, relating of facts. When I say storytelling, I mean what has happened in people's lives. And it was very powerful. There was a lot of grief. There was a lot of loss. There was a lot of sadness and a lot of joy as well. But it really was also, I would say, a lot of healing.
Yeah, I mean, in these pictures, a lot of times you see me crying and my mother's just looking sad. But it's not, I don't know, like, when I was there, I could not stop from hugging her. Like, nobody could pull us apart. Like, I hadn't seen her in 17 years, but like, I was constantly grabbing her, pushing her over, even when she was kind of, you know, it was really emotional, but it was emotional for the right reasons. Like,
it was an opportunity for a lot of information to be shared. A lot of, we were able to learn a lot from
I got to know a lot about her, you know, so. And that's my brothers and my father. So, I don't know, my father, they have to be at least 60-something. I'm not sure, but.
And this is a wonderful photo because the two of them smiling, there were a lot of tears, there was a lot of laughter as well, but there was smiling too. And I just, that photo just touches my heart so much because you can see the connection, you can see mother and daughter, and it just is incredibly powerful. So this is my entire family, and that's not all of them. Right.
So, that's my immediate family, and that's my niece that I'm holding. I think she was just like maybe like 3 months, something like that. And then those are my nephews at the bottom.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And this is the American family at this past Christmas time as well, so big families all over. And at the end of the day, we would say it's all family. Signalo, thank you, and let's turn over to questions. Conversation. Questions? Any comments? Go ahead.
I'm just curious about your twin sister, how she feels that you went on this big journey. How has that been for her now?
And let me just repeat the question, just for the videotaping that, or you can repeat it, but just that the question is, what about your twin sister? How did she feel about you going on this big journey?
I mean, like, my sister, I think the thing was, it's really complicated. My sister and I have always had this argument of why don't you see it the way I see it? Like, yeah. And so when I went, she was kind of, I don't know, like, she was upset that I kind of went, and I was upset that she kind of didn't go. But at the end of the day, it was all respect. Like, I think in some ways she was kind of glad that I made the journey because I got information that she probably wanted to know but didn't voice. But she still doesn't want to search. I mean, she still doesn't want to really connect with our biological family, and I respect that. That's her decision, and I don't know, I can't really speak for her. Sometimes I wish she would be here and share with you guys her point of view because it's really different from mine, but I just respect her decision and just see things differently, so.
And I guess I would add too, in 2010, we all came out to Seattle, and Adanech met McCauley and the other cousins as well, so that was a very positive thing as well. She's just not ready to go back to Ethiopia. I think part of it, I think we could probably argue, is a survivor's guilt kind of feeling. Yeah. I think she feels she'd be very overwhelmed by the poverty and by the difference between
She talks about actually going to Ethiopia, but not connecting with our biological family, so, like, she wants to see Ethiopia, but I think just making the connection with her biological family would just be too much for her, so.
Even though they're twins.
Mom, first I want to commend you for your support of the search process, and I just can imagine how in some ways difficult that is. So Aselefech, I'd like you to maybe speak to the concept of when you were able to meet your mother and what the dynamic of the love you have for your birth mother and the love you have for your mother in the States. Because I think there's this fear, we try to put love in a box, and like there's this limit to love. And so as parents, I think that's a fear that they'd have to give something up.
I mean, definitely, like, I don't know, I have adopted friends, so where their parents wouldn't sometimes, like, felt like if they were to search that, like, it wouldn't be fair to the actual parent. But I mean, me doing the search, like, I was always comfortable. Like, my mother never made me feel like just because I wanted to go look for my biological parents, that means I loved her less. But like, it did not diminish the love that I have for my mother. Like, I just felt like I needed to meet my mom. I needed to know who she was, and the love it just did not change, the love that I have for my mother now. And it just expanded my love even like wider, you know, like I love my biological mother, I love my adoptive mother, and I see them as one. Like, I don't see them separately. I kind of get upset sometimes when people say your real mom or your adoptive mom, because for me, they're both my real moms. So just understand that, you know, when your kids do want to go search, it's not because they don't love you, it's just that sense of wanting to know, or wanting to know where they come from, or wanting to belong. So I was kind of scared at first too. I was like, okay, so if I go searching for my mom, would that mean that like I would love her less? And that wasn't it. Like, it just, I don't know.
My philosophy has always been, the more people you have who love you, the better off you are. And that we are all in this together, because I knew there was no guarantee of the way that things were going to play out in terms of what was going to happen with the reunion, what was going to happen with the information and so forth. But I wanted to be there one way or the other, and that becomes very important, I think, as well.
There's also a conversation had between you and I, like, you know, I would, like, how do you feel about, like, I asked my mom, how does she feel? Because I was kind of being selfish. I mean, in some ways I was looking at it as, like, it's me wanting to do what I want to do. So I did take time and ask my mom, like, Mom, how do you really feel about me searching? And she was honest. And the thing I can say about me and my mother is that we have a really honest, open relationship, which I really, really value. So.
And you can be assured that we don't always get along. So I would say that too. But that's okay. I mean, I think that's really important. I mean, we have had incredible fights. We have had difficult times. We have had hard moments. There's no question about that. But and I'm sure this is true for all of us in this room, we're in it for the long haul. This is what family is. There are lots of fights. There's lots of stuff going on. There's lots of complications. But you stick it out and you keep going. And that's really what I think it comes down to. So.
A little bit, the first trip, I think you said in 2007 or 2008 where you just went. Can you talk a little bit about the thought process between the two of you, of why you went and
Sure. The decision to go in 2008 was the result of many years of conversation where kind of we said, you know, this is always a possibility. We can go. You can go with me. We can go. That was always there. You weren't really ready to go.
I was 18. How old was I at the time?
18 by the time you
I
decided to go.
18 at the time, and I just was not ready. Like, I was scared. I was like, what if my parents, what if we don't find my family? What if my mother is dead? What if I don't get any information? So, I mean, my mom was really brave, for one, to really just go to somewhere where she didn't know people or she didn't know anyone. So, like, I just basically asked her, like, Mom, can you go check this, you know, go check it out for us? And then, you know, come back and let us know, like, emotionally, at 18, I mean, people think, like, I'm really alarmed that, like, some people would take their children to go looking or searching for their biological family at, like, 7, even earlier, and I'm just like, wow. Because I can't imagine handling the, like, emotional baggage that comes with searching for your biological family. Because even when I came back and when I did the search in 2000, well, not the search, when I reunited with my family, like, I needed months. Like, literally, it took me like maybe like 6 months to kind of just like I was still in contact with my family, but it was so many emotions that were just going through my head that I just could not handle at the time. So I kind of took a step back, even from my family in Seattle, and kind of just wanted to give myself time to just kind of grieve or just kind of process the whole information.
And we did know folks in Ethiopia, so that was part of it as well. I wasn't going just kind of all by myself. I was traveling by myself, but I was visiting with people in Ethiopia, and I did have support there. But we didn't know, and the big fear was that the biological family couldn't be found or would be dead, and that was just too much for you at that point to think about. So I got to go and find out, and we were very fortunate in that it ended very well. And very positively. It's still a journey. I wouldn't say that any.
It has not ended.
It has not ended. No, continues.
On a different note, you talked about when you were in elementary school and middle school how hard it was to always stand out and always sort of have to explain yourself or explain your family. And what were some coping mechanisms that you developed, or some things that your family did to buffer you or help you with that?
Certainly one part was just where we lived. Prince County, Maryland was very diverse, lots of different families, lots of African-American role models, for example.
But also we went to like Wise Up, it was like an adoptive camp, and like they gave us like strategies to deal with questions of race or adoption and stuff. So my mom put us in camps where we learned how to like answer certain questions if someone was to say like, why is your mom white and you're black? Or what are you? Like, where are you from? You know? So.
And you used to get that a lot about the,
Oh my
what
gosh.
are you? Because what did people think you were?
I mean, like, I felt like black people would think I wasn't black, like, because they're like, you have the curly hair, your cheekbones are high, you don't have the distinctive, like, African-American features, so they'd say you're Dominican, or you're mixed with white and black, or you're Indian, and it was just always tough to just, like, really, like, I don't know, people were just, didn't know much about Ethiopian culture or, like, faces.
We'd also have lots of times where, particularly when the kids were little, and then they'd see me, and their friends would say, "Oh, you're mixed.
Yeah.
That's why you look the way that you do." Right? Well, no,
not really.
actually. So, but it was mostly really through conversation. I think it was just a lot of conversation about race and about what it means, and other role models as well. Mm-hmm.
What are your plans for the future? Do you like to help and know, connect more with your biological parents, family?
Yes, definitely. One of the big things that I would definitely say that have come out of like me going to Ethiopia and everything is that like I have this huge urge to give back. Actually, in February of 2006, just this year, February of 2012, we threw. I don't know. You saw the picture of can you go back to that slide? Or okay, well, it was a picture of. Whatever. Well, it was funny, actually, on the trip, I met this guy named Jared who happened to go to University of Maryland, where I go. I go to University of Maryland. And he did the same thing. He was traveling with the group and was at Ethiopia just to volunteer at the libraries and stuff. So after the trip, he and I decided, okay, well, it would be cool if we did something. We decided to throw a fundraising dinner to raise money for two nonprofit organizations in Ethiopia. One of them was Ethiopia Reads, and the other one was Reconnected Foundation. And we had a huge dinner. About 300 people showed up, and we raised about $25,000. And it was really successful. And I mean, I go to University of Maryland. This campus is predominantly white. I had to step out of my comfort zone in some ways because a lot of my friends are Ethiopians or African American, and I had to go talk to people, Greek people in their chapter, and kind of just like, you know, really like interact with people that I normally wouldn't interact with. So my way of giving back was to kind of, you know, raise money and send back money to Ethiopia to these schools because I wanted to help build more libraries or give them money for resources such as books, paying teachers. So the event was really successful. And another thing that I do is I also like, I've spoke on like Ethiopian adoptive panel discussion things, and I've also done like cultural camp things where I would go to the camp and kind of talk about my story with the Ethiopian adopted people and share my experience. So I have a big urge to give back now, and I'm very proud of my country. And I mean, I've been on the Helen show where I was able to share my story, and it, I think their TV company is in Ethiopia, and I've gotten like massive friend requests on Facebook, people just telling me we're rooting for you, we're so proud of you, and it just makes me really happy. And like, I don't know, I'm proud of my country, I want to give back, I want to help, and I felt like my search has really opened so many doors for me, so many opportunities, and it's like, I don't know, for me, searching and finding my biological family is starting to really, like, I'm starting to be comfortable with who I am and where I belong. I might not belong in a nice, neat box, but I really, like, it has really changed me. It's been a life-changing experience, so.
I have a question. How do you feel about, you have family in Ethiopia that you know, you were not in contact with them in general now, whether or not that ultimately was a good thing, or do you feel like more should have been done to help your family, you not become separated from your first family?
That's a question something that I really struggle with, and me and my mother have talked about it a couple of times, because the adoption dynamics is really different now. Like growing up, adoption was just strictly like, you're adopted, this is your family. You had no connection with your biological family. So for me, it was kind of weird. Like, I'm starting to learn more about adoption and the different processes now. I'm really understanding stuff. And it's just, I don't know how I would cope with it if I was adopted now. Like, for kids to be able to still have, like, it's like you have you do have two families. I don't know, but I think it's pretty, I don't know. My feelings on adoption is I've gotten older. When we were adopted, I used to always think, like, adoption is amazing, you're helping kids out, this is the family that's gonna take care of you. But as I get older, I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of glad that Ethiopia has cut adoption down by 90%. Like, what we need to do is we need to work on, trying to get the infrastructure up so these parents and these families can actually provide for their children, instead of removing children from their country of origin and bringing them to the United States. And kind of, I feel like it's almost, I don't know how to say it, but it's a really tough issue for me. But I definitely think that the best thing is that the children stay in their country of origin. Like, that's just my view, and I don't know.
And which is not to say that adoption was a terrible experience.
It was not at all. Like, I had a pretty normal experience. I really did. Like, I'm not sitting up here and saying, oh, I wish I was never adopted, because that's not the case. But it's just like, now as I'm older and I look at it, I think children should remain in their country of origin. I mean, for me, I lost language. I felt like I lost culture. Going back, really, like, I felt like I really didn't even belong in Ethiopia. And I don't know. It's a tough issue for me.
It is a tough issue, and I think it's holding those two ideas in your head of two different cultures and being able to ultimately embrace it. But it's a challenge, there's no question. And I think I find this the same way as I am getting older as well. The amount of money that goes into adoptions is astonishing. And if we looked at that money and redirected it, could we do more good? I don't know. Again, I don't have a good answer for that. But do I struggle with it? Yes, I really do. I really do. And I think that's part of why we want to give back to Ethiopia, we want to connect with Ethiopia, why it was always an option to go back, to return, while it will continue to be it. You plan to go back to Ethiopia?
Yeah, I definitely plan on going back. And
I think it's a huge issue, and I think it really deserves a lot of thought and a lot of conversation. And the economic disparity is astonishing. Yes, in the back.
I was thinking about that. What are your feelings about helping birth families out financially?
I mean, I have connections with my biological family, and I sometimes feel like, okay, you're going to the mall to spend money on jeans and shoes. Like, why don't you put that towards savings? It's really tough. Like, I go back and forth between, like, should I send money? Because they've never asked. Like, they have never asked for money. They're just glad that we're healthy and we're happy and we're safe. They've never asked for money. But I mean, I'm a student, and it's not much that I can do. And I don't know. Till I get older, maybe then I'll start giving them money. But at this point, I think it's a blurry issue for me.
It is. It's a tough line. It's a tough line. And we have given things to the birth family and gone that way. But it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. You don't want to get anything in that looks like there's any kind of coercion or buying or bribery or anything like that, of course. And I think it's, again, trying to find balance using middle entity to either give money or to give some sort of products, that sort of thing, or items that they might need for the home. With a brother here in Seattle, it's different ways to do that. We're helping out, for example, with some legal advice, because there are some family members who might want to come to the United States who are providing assistance that way. I think there are a lot of different ways to provide assistance. And I think, again, it's a difficult and individual choice how it goes.
I'm just amazed with the unconditional love you gave to your daughters and the farsightedness for you to see all that, for her to be who she is today, and to explain all this, and to also openly share her feelings. You have done an amazing job, and I'm just amazed.
Thank you so much.
I have no idea how we're doing for time here. Obviously, we could sit here for the next several hours, but are we still okay for time? I know this is supposed to end at 4. Are we okay? Thank you very much. Other questions, other comments, other thoughts? I'll come to this side next time, sorry. Keep going over here. Go ahead.
This is, oh, I'm sorry.
So technology wasn't even thought of, so it's just really weird. Maybe I'm not 23, Mom.
Well, I'm not really 46, so it's okay. But, no, we had the birth certificate, and we asked as well. Aselefech and Adanech have 5 older siblings, and they pretty much are aware of their birth dates. I mean, I think we're pretty certain that it was October 22nd, 1988. I think the year is correct, you know, we probably won't know about that.
Yeah, I think the year is correct, but the months, I don't know, like, we'll never be sure, so.
And we did some of the testing when they came here, of course, all the, physical testing that you subjected, and so the teeth and all that stuff, so it seemed pretty much on track that they were 6 years old when they arrived here in the United States. So, and a lot of growth after that, so. And on this poor side of the room, I keep looking over here. Is there a question over here?
It sounds to me like one of mentioned once or twice growing up, learning different ways to answer questions people would have for you. Where are you from? Or are you adopted? Either to answer them, or I think you said at one point, or to shut people up or deflect those questions. And I'm wondering if you could share a couple of things you kind of.
Well, it was the idea that you could ignore the question.
Yeah, it was one of them you can ignore, or you can change the subject, like the topic of subject or whatever, and I don't know, like, I don't really remember clearly.
I think what it is and you'll probably, maybe as I talk, you'll remember some of it. At different ages, it's different things. I think one of the things that I told my children when they're growing up is, you don't have to tell anybody anything. You really don't.
Just walk away. That was one of the big ones, just walk away. Yeah.
We always try to be polite.
Yeah.
But you don't have to give an explanation. If somebody says, well, why are you adopted? Why didn't your real family want you? You can, and we would give them different responses like, well, I live with my real family, or
just go on and on and on. But like, you just, at a certain point, you just gotta walk away, or just, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm older now, so I don't really remember them. But I definitely remember a lot of the times when kids would ask me like uncomfortable questions, I would like just walk away, or I would just maybe get smart right back with them if they'll say something like, well, that's not your mother or whatever, and I'm like, well, you don't know if that's your mother. And,
which is not among my suggested responses, I would say. But it does speak to how children cope, and and it's a very real answer, and that's to sometimes it depends. I mean, I think a lot of it too, it depends. There is a time and a place to provide an explanation, and I'm not kidding when I said I would tell them, you don't have to tell anybody anything, you really don't. You can tell them what you want to tell them, but you don't have to give a long explanation, because one thing, it's none of their business.
Sometimes you just didn't know the answers. Like, you just had no idea. They would ask you the most far-fetched question, and you'll be like, you'll clearly say, I don't know. They'd be like, what do you mean you don't know?
Right, and go on from there. Most people, I think, generally, kids and otherwise, they're just curious.
Yeah.
They're just curious. They're not trying to be intrusive. They're not trying to be invasive. People are rude sometimes.
But, I mean, you would know when somebody's asking you a question if they're being smart or if they're being really genuine. And sometimes, like, if they just really wanted to know, sometimes I'm like, okay, come on, like, I'll tell you. But if I felt like it was just somebody being nosy, I'll just be like, okay, whatever.
And you've had, even as a young adult, you've had friends ask in different ways and understand or not understand what it means. Sometimes I know there's been, and this is true, I mean, for all my kids, I would say, reluctance to bring people home because you don't want to go through the questions of you have these two white parents at home.
Yeah, so. I mean, like, when I did my, when I did the event at the University of Maryland to raise money for the 2 nonprofit organizations in Ethiopia, a couple of my friends showed up and they were like, wow, I did a story kind of like this. And they're like, I didn't even know that about you, and I've known you for 17 years. And I was just like, yeah.
And it is a decision, I think, to decide how much information to share at any given time. I mean, I would find things, and I'm sure, when my kids, because they don't all look alike when they were little, and people would say, well, are they really brother and sister? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But the question there, wants to, or my 2 boys, are they really brothers? Yeah, they really are. And I mean, I would have somebody say, do they have different fathers?
Yeah. Oh my
Excuse
God.
me? Are we, just
Or people will be like, is your mom married to a black guy? No, she's not. And like, it would just get, sometimes it would just get really uncomfortable, but I don't know. It's just always, people are just weird.
And people are curious. I mean, I would say too, people are curious, and for the most part, I mean, I have to believe that people don't mean to be mean. Kids can be, and adults can be too. There's no shortage of that. But I think you get both the responses as an adoptive parent. You get, oh, aren't you wonderful? And you can get, I could never do that. Those are kind of the two main responses that we've gotten along the way. Claire went to Matthew Henson Montessori School too, along the way, so.
Well, I was actually just wondering how the transition was for Chris and Sean when you first came, and how you approach that as a family.
That's a great question, absolutely. Chris and Sean are my two sons. Sean was about 7, Chris was about 5 when the girls arrived. And it's always an issue with adoptive families when you change birth order. You know, Chris went to being the younger of 2 to being the youngest of 4, and suddenly had, 2 sisters in between him and his brother. Chris and Sean struggled all through their lives growing up. They're kind of getting closer now, but oh my God, they fought so much all the time. The 4 kids got along well for the most part. I would say that's, and increasingly so. But it was kind of a hard transition, I would say, for Chris, and I still see that, even now he's 22, I still see, some of those issues. Chris and Sean were adopted as infants, so they have a different set of questions on that. But it was a transition. I mean, I think when they first arrived, I just think back in those first couple of days, which are probably kind of blurry to you, but the girls didn't speak English. But do you remember?
I remember when we arrived, like my brother Chris, like he was so excited and he was so proud. So like he took us downstairs and showed us like how to kick balls and play basketball. And like my brother Chris isn't like a really warm, fuzzy, emotional person, but like he cared, And so.
And one of the great things that Chris said to them, again, they didn't speak English at all, but Chris said to them, "See, I told you this would be fun." And that's the perspective of a 5-year-old, and who knows? But he was showing them around the house and showing them food, and they had no idea what he was saying to them.
And later we would fight over who had the remote control. So.
Oh yes, and we went on from there. Yes. That was a couple of years later, but yes. And they grew up as very normal, typical siblings too. I mean, they got along really well on some things. They didn't get along. They could, play their parents against each other, depending on what the issue was. There was, little bits of...
we were really lucky. We grew up in a diverse community. We went to pretty much like diverse schools. So like even though our family was mixed, we saw other people that had families that kind of looked similar to us. So like I would say we were really fortunate that we were able to be around diversity. And like for me, it's really weird that I say this, but like I'm more comfortable in a diverse setting than I am in a setting of all black people or all Ethiopians or all white people. Like I feel more diverse I feel more comfortable when there's diversity. So I don't know.
And I think that's a plus. I mean, I think it's a big plus to be able to have that kind of comfort range. I think for my 4 kids, again, just in the for what it's worth category, with all 4 of them having been adopted, they had that in common as well. And I think that for us, again, for our family, that was a positive dynamic. Everybody was adopted. So, and everybody had a different perspective on adoption as well.
That's like more kids, like people end up having kids and then adopting kids. So like sometimes I wonder, like I would like really love to sit and listen to someone who was growing up with whose parents had biological kids and then decided to adopt. I think that would be like really cool and interesting to listen to because I don't know how that is. But that's the majority now, so.
It is. That's a dynamic that has changed in adoption. It used to be really international adoption was more for people who couldn't have biological children, but increasingly it's changed an awful lot where folks have biological children and then add a child through international adoption. It's much more common than it used to be even 20 years ago. But they always had that in common.
Can you speak about where you are in your identity now? You just said you feel comfortable in a diverse setting, maybe less so if you're with all black people, all white people, all Ethiopian people. Where you are with your identity now in those communities, and then how you also see yourself fitting in to the Ethiopian community or not?
Yes, I definitely feel like I'm really starting to find myself. Like, I honestly just feel like, I don't know, I can go in like a lot of my friends don't feel comfortable in certain environments, but for me it's like I can be around white people and I can still feel like I'm able to go from like, I don't know, it's like I'm switching hats. I can be around white people, I can be around Ethiopians, and I can be around black people. But it's just like, you know, sometimes I'll hear either a racist comment or I'll hear certain things that will bug me, and like I just don't know how to react. But I honestly would say like I'm comfortable just with being me. Like I don't think race, like I don't think white, yellow, black, green, whatever is what matters. Like I honestly just feel like I'm comfortable with the person that I am, and I would say like a lot of that was because I was able to, you know, do a search, and now I'm doing a lot of like things that involve giving back, and that I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like race isn't really an issue for me. I still, you know, like I can have conversations with people about race. Like I feel like sometimes certain people cannot have like conversations about race because it can get heated or whatever. But I feel like I can understand everybody's views, and that kind of puts me at an advantage. So
I think you're very aware of racism, and you're very aware of stereotypes
Right.
and so forth. I don't want, you know, folks to get the impression that you know, are unaware of that, because I know you're aware of that.
I mean, we
faced
talk-
it in your own life and
Yeah, and
gone
we-
through that.
I'm able to talk about racism openly or anything else, like any subject. Like, I don't know, I just feel like I was really blessed and really lucky to be able to grow up in a diverse setting, because it really lets me look at things almost on like every aspect.
I think the idea of being Ethiopian American is really how, in many ways, you would categorize yourself as
Yeah,
well as being
in terms of identifying myself,
Right,
yeah, I identify first and foremost, I would identify myself as Ethiopian. Like, you know, because in the United States, you know, people see you as color, they don't see you as your ethnicity, but I'm very proud, and like, so I definitely identify myself first and foremost as Ethiopian, and other than that, I mean, I don't.
Other than that, I think you're very aware that people see you as a young black woman.
Yeah. And they see me as a black woman, and I know the pluses and minuses that can go with that, and so, I don't know.
And she's also reserved the domain name of Adopted Aberra
Yes.
to kind of set up a website and do some information and mentoring and so forth on that. So I think that's probably, you might identify yourself as Adopted Aberra
Yeah.
as well. Other questions? Or I think we may have reached the end. Well, again, thank you so very, very much. Please feel free to come and talk with us as we go along. I wish you all the best on your journeys. I really do. I know it's a long and winding road some ways, but I do believe we are in this together, and I hope that we continue to go that way. Thank you so much. I'm Aselefech.
መጪውን የኢትዮጵያን ሚሌኒየም ልክ እንደ አብሮ መብላት መጠጣታችን ለለውጥ ተጋግዘን በመስራት የሀገራችንን እድገት የምናይበት ጅምር እንዲሆን የእግዚአብሔር ቅዱስ ፈቃዱ ይሁን እላለሁ። መልካም በዓል፣ መልካም ጊዜ።